Everyone wondered how the world broke.
We're under attack.
Deep down, before society collapsed, we were already falling. It was only a matter of time before it all crumbled.
Try to hold your breath. Hold your breath.
I saw this.
So what?
It might be nuclear.
Are you scared?
America's just been attacked.
Get to the homestead.
Is this an ark? Or is this a fortress? It would take a miracle for this to work. But I believe in miracles.
Everyone wants to know how the world ended. This is the story of how it began again.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm okay. So my research goes deeper than IMDb, but the first couple things I wanted to ask you are on IMDb, and I feel cheesy doing this because it's always the easy way out. So, did you play all 4 years at Duke at linebacker?
I did. Well, yes and no. Started out as a linebacker, and then they moved me to strong safety because I don't know if you noticed, but I've never been above 200 pounds. Maybe 203 on my best day when I was 22 years old.
Okay, so I'm a Massachusetts-based podcast. What are your thoughts on Belichick coaching the Tar Heels?
Dude, I'm fired up. I'm fired up for Belichick, and if I had any affinity for North Carolina Tar Heels, I would be pumped for them. I think it's the right guy for the right position at the right time. I of course, I love watching them lose, and I want to, beat them every time badly.
Right.
But I feel like they need to wipe the slate clean, and they need a full culture change. And so, being a fan of college football, I love the rivalry, and I want them to be competitive. I think they got the right guy at the right time.
Well, that's a great answer. And I also feel like people are like, well, why is he taking the job? Like why wouldn't you take the job? Like North Carolina, it's a beautiful state to live in. It's a beautiful program. It's a beautiful school. Like, there's no real downside to it. And college football is not like it was 20 years ago where you're hoping the local kid comes to Carolina. Like it's basically free agency at this point,
Yeah. And not another reason to hate them is my senior year, I visited there and they ended up not offering me. My high school girlfriend went there. And so the best I could do was to go to Duke, and I've hated it ever since.
Yeah. I mean, it is a beautiful state. And the other thing that I thought was stunning, you were roommates with Chipper Jones.
Yeah, so that was in high school. We got shipped off for different reasons. He was a baseball phenom at 15, and my single mom had sent off my brother the year before and got positive results and said, "Okay, your turn." And fortunately, I ended up at Bowles, and Chipper was a great friend and a great competitor. We made each other better.
Yeah.
In football and baseball, and God, what a career he's had.
As a teenager, was he Chipper or was he Larry at that
young? From 15, from before 15, right? I met him at 15, but so Larry Wayne Jones, but he was a chip off the old block. So his dad played pro ball, I believe, for the Cubs for a little bit, and then got drafted into Vietnam.
Okay, I got you. So let's get into this really great. So I love the way Angel Studios is marketing this, right? It's like a movie that's going to turn into a series, and then if you go to my friend was going to the theater. There's a QR code. There's a lot to this, right? So it's kind of hard to explain, but I love the way Angel has thought outside the box. And there's nothing wrong with just distributing a series to Netflix or whatever. That's fine. Yeah. But I think you have to be creative in how you're marketing your stories now. And I think Angel's done a really, really good job of that.
I couldn't agree more. And the old Hollywood system model, it's really not sustainable. It's extremely wasteful, and I was a benefactor of that for a long time. I worked in the Hollywood system, and they provided a very comfortable living for myself and my family until the system failed, and COVID hit, and they mandated strikes, and the pandemic, couldn't leave home. Long story short, I ended up leaving California and have now found a new home outside of Hollywood to do what I do. But to just give some example, Homestead is $5-6 million budget movie. If this were a studio movie, it'd be 50 or 60 million. Taylor Sheridan, he gets $30 million an episode to shoot Lioness, Yellowstone, whatever. Our episodes are coming in at like 750,000. So I think we're telling a comparable level story for a fraction of the price, and that's thanks to Angel Studios.
Yeah, I also think on a separate note that Taylor's doing too much at once, and it's some of the storylines are paying for that. But I'm not here to shit on anybody.
I mean, me too. I'm a Taylor fan.
Yeah,
so
yeah. He's
God bless him.
He's an awesome talent. But I really love your scenes with Neil. I think you guys have a great chemistry on screen. He's a super talented guy, great in The Guardian and so many other things. But he seems like a really great actor to be, face to face with, and just to trust on screen.
It's cool that you picked up on that, because I've known Neil for over 20 years. We've, met. I moved to LA in the late 90s. We were in this actor softball league, and we both, played some college baseball. He went to Syracuse, obviously me at Duke. And so we had that competitive thing, like from go, like we're going to hit some bombs. Who can hit the most home runs today, in our little soft pitch softball game. So we've always had that. And then he got married younger and now has 5 kids. My kids are younger. I have 3. So I followed in his footsteps, always looked up to him. He's been a great mentor, a great family man, and what an actor. So, Neil is very, he does not suffer fools. Holly Hunter's another one that I worked with that I was like, okay, when it's go time, you better be ready. And it's the exact same thing with Neil. He ups the stakes, makes everybody around him better. And yeah, I can't wait for everybody to see it.
Yeah, they're gonna like it a lot. I think I love post-apocalyptic movies, whether it's zombies or nuclear weapons, whatever. And I feel like whatever show you're talking about, you have to have a Jeff Erickson. You have to have a guy that knows his way, who's all about protection. He can see through, like, there's moments of, I don't want to say weakness, but there's moments of poor judgment when it comes to letting people in. Yeah. And Jeff is the type of guy that says, listen, like, he sees the big picture when everyone else can't see that far. How do you like playing Jeff? And do I have him down right?
You do. You've got that. That's exactly who he is. And he's extremely intense, as the audience will find out very quickly, to his own detriment. But there's a reason for that. It's based in his experience. It's based in what he's seen working undercover as a DEA agent, what he's seen overseas. I had the good fortune to spend some time with the real life Jeff Kirkham, and he told me some things that I wouldn't share publicly, but it cannot not affect you as a man, as a human being, as a father. And so I was able to take all of that in, and hopefully that's what people see on screen. You won't see someone who's got it all together. You'll see a leader who's barely hanging on.
Yeah, that's well said. I tell you, Billy, it's never the radiation, or it's never the zombies or whatever you're talking about that affect these types of stories. It's always human beings. They're always the worst part of any type of situation like this. And it's how you deal with humanity. And that's why I think your character is just so vital to this story.
No, thank you. Yeah, he's, funny story, Ben Smallbone, the director, we got a couple days into shooting, and like any TV film, it's all last minute. You meet each other as you're walking a set and shoot the first scene. And after like 2 days of shooting, he's like, Bailey, and he's got this Australian accent. No, I won't even attempt it. But I really like you, mate. I really like you. I like talking to you. I like hanging out with you. But then between action and cut, I just don't like you. I do. I'm like, hey, mate, I did not write this stuff. If you write Jeff more likable, if you want to like me, I'm playing what's there. And then like the next day, he had seen dailies for the first time. He's like, don't change a thing. He's like, I'm sorry, you got it. And there was just something, again, we're skeleton crew, we're shooting on a budget. And so we don't have like big monitors out there on the location. But once he was able to see it, inside, he could see all the subtlety and nuance of what was going on the screen.
Yeah. What is Jeff's biggest challenge, you think, Bailey? Is it just keeping everybody safe? Is it more intricate than that? Is it just the broad view of what is it? What's his biggest challenge?
Well, he's a military leader operating in a non-military environment. So yeah, he's fine with his team. There's a little dissension, which is good for the story.
Yep.
But I am trying to train and control people who are not warriors. They're civilians.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do when you got kids around.
Yeah. There's a scene early on where Neil's character is confronted by, I think it's a neighbor who builds chimneys or he builds fireplaces or something along those lines, and he won't let him in no matter what. And his wife is like, "Come on." And like I was saying before, that's where your character says, "You got to stop." And then the scene unfolds, and you see that your character was right the entire time. But also, like, that's kind of what's great about Homestead. It's like it's not the traditional post-apocalyptic movie. It's like, what, these are hard choices. Like, do you let these people in? Do you ignore families with children? Like, it's so easy for us to say, keep them out, do this, do that. But it's a conversation starter long after you've done viewing this.
Absolutely. I mean, what are you going to do when there's a nuclear attack? These are all situations based in reality. I mean, it's hypothetical, but it's not far-fetched to be like, okay, bad guys dropped a bomb on LA. People are going to the Rockies. Okay, now you've got your prepper community out there, and those guys are going to have, they're going to be a step ahead or steps ahead of everybody else. And those who are not prepared, they're going to want in, they're going to need in. They're going to fight for their families to stay alive. And then that's where you create the conflict. And then Neil's wife in the movie, Dawn Olivia Airy, who is, what a boss she is.
She's awesome. Yeah. Talk about Taylor Sheridan. She's really great.
Yeah, she did 1883 and Linus too. And then she says in the movie, is this a fortress or is it an ark? And Neil
That's a great quote. I had that written down.
What a good one.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
Yeah.
He responds, "It's our." What does he say? It's our fam. He responds with something like, "It's." I have it written down, but
I got you.
He responds like, "It's our family," or "It's our home." Or he says, "It's our home." Yes. So
Homestead. It's our home.
Yeah.
And that's really that's the movie. Like that's the driving force right there. What are we doing here? We're all up against this moral dilemma of protecting our families, keeping people on the inside safe, or do we help those in need?
Reality hits home very quickly for Jeff when Abe, I don't know if I should say it, but Abe comes into a situation that's very difficult. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a situation like this in a post-apocalyptic movie like this. I don't think I've seen it, but like, like everyone's always like, hey, get that person or do that. But it's like, it comes with consequences. In the real world, that doesn't just go away. Like, you don't just brush it off at a commercial break, right? This is a real world thing. And as a father, he's got to deal with real world consequences. Just whatever you wanted to say about that, Bailey.
Yeah, it was my son's 8 years old. So, but I can imagine him in that situation. I have 2 daughters as well. And so, imagine yourself as a father with your child at risk, someone threatening their life, and you have to give them.
You gave him the green light. You gave him the green light.
And Jeff's not wrong. Jeff's not wrong in doing that. And I think most parents would have done the exact same thing, but it was an accident, and then tragedy. Then there's the fallout.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you know this, or if I should tell your viewers that it's not just a film. That it's a series as well.
Correct. Right. That's what I was referencing early on. I like the fact that that's how they did it. First the movie, then the series. Usually it's reversed sometimes, but I like the way. I
love how they did it. And again, going back to Angel Studios, being really smart and being like, okay, let's go test the waters with this movie. But the movie was tracking so well, they didn't want to wait. They're so excited about Homestead. So thank you, Lord, for that.
Yeah.
And we started shooting the series. So those will be available at angel.com or on the Angel Studios app right after the movie drops on the 20th. And then, yes, there's that QR code that will come up at the end of the movie. My co-star will come on and explain everything to everybody. Jesse Hutch, he's very good at that kind of thing. Very funny. You'll enjoy Jesse. Mm-hmm. And he'll explain everything on how you can not just go watch the series, but you can also pay it forward, which is a staple of Angel Studios to allow families who maybe can't afford to watch the movie, and you can create that opportunity for them.
No, that's beautiful. 2 more questions, Bailey, if that's okay. I have 2 more for you. The first one is, when the problems add up, that's when the show gets really interesting, right? Because yes, there's what happens to your son. There's the people on the outside. There's even little things that up, like the wheat with the rats, going after. Yeah. So like those little things, like it's almost like a boxing match, right? You punch somebody, you punch enough punches. It's like now it's really starting to affect you. And I love that attention to detail, Bailey. What can you say about that as far as the plot goes? And I love those little things, how they build up in this movie.
Yeah, the character arcs throughout are really strong, and again, they've already storyboarded through the end of the first season, and then they got 10 books there to pull from. But in a way, the feature film serves as essentially a pilot for the series, and there's a lot of things that you got to set up, and you don't resolve everything. But you're right. I mean, there's a huge power struggle between Neil and myself, and then his wife, who believes in miracles, right? So, and I'm not necessarily a believer in miracles at the beginning of this film, and neither is Neil. So you got all the conflict. But yeah, so you're going to get to the end of the film, you're going to be a different person from when you started the film, and then hopefully you're going to want to continue on that journey, and you'll be able to do that in the series.
It's those difference of philosophies that make it such an intriguing movie / show, right? That's what makes it so great.
Yeah. And then we've got these other killer actors who come into the series that aren't even in the feature film. Charles Eston and Jill Wagner were here in Nashville last night at our premiere here, and so you'll maybe get a tease of them. There's a tease, but they're not technically in the film. But wow, we are super blessed. It's an amazing cast. The fact that I get to be up here, sort of close to the front and lead such a talented group, it's completely humbling, and I only have God to thank.
Oh, that's great. I'll end with this. You mentioned the scene earlier where there was a little bit of a turmoil between, I don't want to say your soldiers, would you say your troops, your how would you, I don't know.
My guys,
your squad, your guys.
Guys.
Where they're like, come on, just take over. And you're like, you basically come to a point where like, there's kids here. Like, this is not, we're not like fighting it. We are fighting an enemy, but we're not fighting an enemy. Like, you have to understand, like, there's kids here. This is not a traditional war. And I kind of like hit home a little bit. I'm like, yeah, there's so many intangibles and X factors that it's not just, let's just blow people away. There's so much to it, Bailey. And that's what I love. Again, the attention to detail.
That's Bing. That's, played by Manny McCord. And, that's probably, he's our rogue Navy SEAL. And that's probably how you and I were back at about 28 years old. A little more like that.
Bailey, I'm a huge fan. I love the movie / soon to be show, and I can't wait to go on the ride. And thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Pleasure. God bless. Thank you.